A ban on camping in the city of Salem was extended to move the homeless out of public spaces and towards services. Fox 12's Zach Anders spoke with several people in Salem. They say this hasn't really changed anything for them, except it takes away their only shelter. Zach?
Yeah, hi, Nora. When the city of Salem passed that ban on public camping in December, they also called for permanent shelter bed options to be available to the public. The current shelters only open if it's below 32 degrees. But as of, their goal was the 1st of January, but as of today, they still have not found a permanent option for any of these shelters, while a ban on tents still remains in place. Salem's struggle with homelessness continues into the new decade.
Certainly the question of where can the people go who will no longer be able to camp was of concern to council.
Mid-December, the city banned by ordinance the ability to camp in public spaces.
The ordinance is in effect. We are enforcing.
But the people have stayed.
Well, the city pushed us out of the woods, so we were allowed to come here because we're not blocking the sidewalk.
Some who experience homelessness say the effect is this: their belongings strewn about the sidewalk, things that would normally be in a tent.
If they want me to get a job and get off these streets, how can I get a job and go to work if my stuff's all scattered out? At least if I'm out and on a trail somewhere with a locking tent, my stuff's secure.
There was no prohibition on someone coming in front of someone's home and erecting a tent.
The city says police now have a framework to approach the issue, with enforcement being at the discretion of law enforcement.
It's a civil ordinance. There are no criminal penalties attached to it.
While the city says it must also represent the interests of property owners and keep public spaces clean, those living in them say they don't see this as a solution.
We want to be able to get on our feet and do our own things, but we can't do that if we have nothing. Like living outside, you don't get anything from that. You have to have a home to have a job. You have to have a job to have a home.
It's important to note the city does not manage these shelters directly. A nonprofit called Arches does, and Arches said they weren't able to secure a lease by the new year, and that's why they don't have permanent facility options in place right now. Normally, for their warming shelters, they would only open up, again, if it was below 32 degrees, and those would be at churches. And I can tell you right now, it's raining fairly well right now, and the wind is picking up. It's fairly cold, and right now these folks that are huddled up against this building behind me are not allowed to have tents or any kind of shelter. Tarps, structures is what the ordinance prohibits. So these folks right now are braving the elements. And as far as whether or not permanent options will be available anytime soon, the Arches nonprofit was not available to be reached for comment this afternoon. However, they did release a statement earlier in the week that said they're working on a permanent solution. Reporting live in Salem tonight, Zach Anders, Fox 12 Oregon.